This is Times Radio.
The one to watch on Times Radio, Lee, a Sky original film, starring Academy Award winner Kate Winslet as Lee Miller. Out now, only in cinemas.
Lee is the new film based on the remarkable true story of American photographer Lee Miller. As an acclaimed war correspondent, Lee defied expectations to become one of the most iconic photographers of her time. Immersed on the front line of World War II, where she would capture some historic and in some cases horrific wartime images for Vogue magazine. The film features an incredible cast. Alongside Academy Award winner Kate Winslet are Andy Samberg, Alexander Skarsgård, Marion Cotillard, Josh Rom and Andrea Riseborough. Epic in scale and beautifully shot, Lee is poignant but powerful, with an unflinching and gripping central performance from Kate Winslet.
The one to watch on Times Radio, Lee, a Sky original film, based on the incredible true story of legendary war photographer Lee Miller. Out now, only in cinemas. Book tickets now.
Friday Night Film Club. Why not stop by the snack kiosk in the foyer for a foot-long Frankie's, some toffee butterkist, and a carton of Kiora? Then settle in for our feature presentation.
Well, the pioneering photographer Lee Miller worked as a fashion model and an artist before becoming a war correspondent for British Vogue in the 1930s. Her images taken during World War II are some of the most arresting and enduring of the conflict. And a new film about her life, which stars Kate Winslet, focuses on the period when she defied convention to become a war photographer, travelling to the front lines. Well, Josh Rom, our entertainment reporter, who is now the subject of enormous envy, has been talking to Kate herself. Good evening, Josh.
Good evening, Hannah. Lovely to be here. Lovely to be back. It's just great. Great tonight. I'm excited.
You are excited, and you have very good reason to be, because Kate Winslet is an extraordinary actress and really an icon. Tell us what you spoke about.
Yeah, she is an absolute icon. You know, we all know her from so many films. Of course, Titanic, one of the biggest films of all time. But, you know, she's brilliant in indie productions as well. Like, for example, The Dressmaker, a brilliant Australian film that she did with Liam Hemsworth. I also think of The Reunion that she had with Leonardo DiCaprio and Revolutionary Road. Of course, she won the Oscar in 2009, playing Hannah Schmidt in The Reader as well. So really, she is so versatile as an actress. But what I will say is she is absolutely sublime in this new film, Lee. And Lee herself is this kind of is this historical figure which I don't think gets the recognition that she deserves. And I think one of the reasons why Kate Winslet was so passionate and is so passionate about this film is because she wants to bring this story to the forefront. This is a film that she spent 9 years making. She's not just the starring actress in this, she is also a producer in this. So what really struck me in our interview was not just how passionate she was about the film, but also the details that she was insistent needed to get right. And one of those details in particular that she really wanted to nail was this very iconic image from World War II, which is Lee Miller posing naked in the bathtub of Adolf Hitler in his Munich apartment. So, and this is a film that is recreated beautifully in the film alongside SNL actor and comedian Andy Samberg in his first serious role, playing Davy Sherman, Lee's partner from Life magazine, and they worked together extensively. But this scene as well, this was Lee's big moment as a kind of, you know, a moment of defiance against Hitler. She's naked in the bathtub, so she's both vulnerable and she's also defiant. So I asked Kate, what was going through her mind when filming this scene?
Well, I think because it's such an iconic image, as you say, there were many different versions of that scene that were scripted over a number of years. And quite honestly, at the end of the day, when I looked at the negatives, which I did over and over again with Anthony Penrose, and we would just try and figure out, you know, who had gotten in the bathtub first, because Lee also photographed Davy Sherman in the bath, played by Andy Samberg. And the numbers down the sides of the negatives do suggest that Davy got in the bath first. And he said, yeah, but it's tricky because they would often get their camera rolls mixed up. And sometimes they'd even be swapping cameras. And so sometimes things would just get developed in whatever pattern they were without them necessarily knowing who had actually been in the bath first. So it was clear to me that it was a very, very composed shot when you can see the dust of Dachau on that lemon yellow bath mat, and we know it was lemon yellow because Lee wrote about it, which is why ours is lemon yellow and why our tiles are green. But they were at the liberation of Dachau that morning. They were among the first people there, and it was always going to be the case that we had to see the evidence of that on their clothes. And of course they got in the bath, and it's just a brazen thing for Lee to have done. She's like, hot water. They hadn't washed for 6 weeks. She hadn't changed her clothes. And again, we know that too because she wrote about it. And we just couldn't miss a trick. We had to get everything right. And I do think it's important when you play a historical figure or anyone who had really existed, I do think it's important to get it right historically and make it accurate. And that was a scene that we just couldn't get wrong.
So there was Kate Winslet saying how she couldn't get that scene wrong. It was a very poignant scene in the film. It was really one of those scenes which you just went, wow, fantastic. But another thing about Kate is, of course, she's known for her versatility as an actress. And it was exactly like Hannah was saying earlier. You know, Lee Miller was somebody that had all different roles in her life. She had a career as a model. She then stepped behind the camera as this photographer and then afterwards became a muse. You know, she was constantly, this was a woman that defied convention, was constantly reinventing herself, a little bit like Kate Winslet herself with all of the different roles that she played. So one thing that I really wanted to know about Kate was, did she really feel at home playing this woman who really was constantly reinventing herself?
I mean, I have to be honest, I don't know if I would say I felt at home. It's an interesting thing when you take on playing someone who had really existed, and because I developed the film over such a long period of time and it was incredibly important to me to get it right and to make it in the right way, that I think I felt a huge sense of responsibility and duty, really, not to get her wrong, not to get the film wrong, and not to disappoint Anthony Penrose, who is Lee's son and very much alive, and it was a huge, huge part of our film and the process for me. So quite honestly, I was just determined I was going to do it, and I just threw myself at it, and I just wouldn't give up.
And then when we think of Kate Winslet, we always think of all of her different roles. We think of Rose from Titanic. We think of Hannah Schmidt from The Reader, which, of course, she won the Oscar for in 2009. I think of Tilly from The Dressmaker. She was 2 years ago in Avatar 2, The Way of Water. I think of Sabine in A Little Chaos. She has had so many roles. Of course, you said, Hannah, earlier, Maureen Dashwood as well from Sense and Sensibility. She's been there, done it, period dramas, modern films. She's been through it all. But something that a lot of her characters have in common is that they're all very headstrong women. They're all very strong women who have strong convictions and just really go for whatever it is that they want to do within the story. So I asked Kate, because I believe a lot of those roles have things in common. So I asked her, is she really as headstrong as some of the characters she plays? And, well, I think she gave me a very surprising response.
I'm different. I don't think I've ever played anyone, actually, who's like me at all. It's really bizarre. Although at the time that I've played those characters, I definitely look for similarities between myself and that person. Often I won't find any similarities at all. Case in point, Mer Sheehan. I had absolutely no connection with her at all, and I just had to invent and go into a whole other world. But quite honestly, I realise now, having played Lee and gone through this process, that I do have that same kind of just determined spirit, you know. I had a lot more defiance, I think, when I was younger, because I think I had to stick up for myself a lot more back in those days. But the culture in the film industry has changed so much that isn't the case anymore. But my passion and determination, I do think, probably does match Lee Miller's. And I think we were quite similar-spirited women.
Some very interesting responses there, especially when she said how when she was younger, she almost felt more defiant when she was younger than now, because one would have thought that actually being in the industry as long as she has, winning the awards that she has, Oscars, BAFTAs, Emmys, you would have thought that now would be the time where she would actually be like, no, if she doesn't want to do something, she will say it. But actually it's the complete opposite. She said actually she feels you know, that she was able to speak up more for herself when she was younger. And it was also very interesting for me hearing that as well, especially when she was like, I'm not like the characters which I play. I thought that was a very interesting point. What do you think?
I mean, I'm amazed. Yes, I suppose with her, and that's why she's such an extraordinary actress, because you think there's so much of Kate Winslet in every part you see her play, because she just enters so wholly into the role. So it's so surprising to hear her say that. And for me, I think particularly about, you were talking about Marianne, who's one of my, you know, favourite, complicated, brilliant characters in Sense and Sensibility. And I just always sort of imagined that there was a lot of Kate Winslet in that. But that is just the sign of an absolutely superb actress, someone who enters into the role so wholly that you just completely believe that they, you know, you can't separate in your mind them from the role.
Absolutely. And another person that actually I believe does that is Andrea Riseborough, who's also in this film, starring as the editor of British Vogue, Audrey Withers, during World War II. Now, Andrea Riseborough, some of you might remember her in her role for To Leslie, which she was nominated for not last year but the year before for Best Actress, the Academy Award nominee there. She's also been in films like Matilda the Musical, playing Matilda's mum. So she's had a real variety. She was also in Amsterdam alongside Christian Bale and Margot Robbie as well. So she's had a real variety of roles. Some are very much more serious, others a little bit more outlandish. So I asked her, what does she prefer? Does she prefer playing these kind of weird, outlandish characters, or does she like something gritty like Audrey Withers in this film? Because she does have some very serious scenes.
From my perspective, because I'm inside of it, they just seem like people. I think people are really extraordinary, and I think we've gotten to a really upsetting point in television and film where their morality has taken hold in a way that is very black and white, and nuance has been lost. And any time that we can explore the vast ranges of human experience and really and truly reflect people who are extraordinary and not neutralise them through very staid film language, visual film language, and notes and writing, you know, so we can really just embrace how odd we all are as humans and how cruel we can be and how majestic we can be, you know. To embrace all of those things, I think that we get to that's a valuable thing to do. It's a valuable thing to do because it humanises us all, and it makes us, and we can understand each other a little better that way, perhaps.
Yeah, very much interesting there from Andrea Riseborough, because the role that she plays, Audrey Withers, there's a very intense scene in the film with Kate Winslet when Lee comes back from the war, back to British Vogue, back to London, and British Vogue didn't run the pictures due to the censorship in place by the government at the time. So she storms into the offices and cuts up her own negatives, and she screams at Audrey Withers, "You didn't fight for them. You didn't fight for them hard enough." And it's a real scene that really, it's a scene that really packs an emotional punch.
And let's hear also from the director. You've been talking to everyone.
Yes, the director, Ellen Kuras. She's previously worked with Kate as a cinematographer on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and A Little Chaos as well. And we were speaking about the Holocaust scenes that were depicted in this film.
As a director, I have a bit of remove because I need to see the bigger picture, whereas the actors and whoever else is in the picture is within the world. And they, in a way, are in their mind's eye. For my role as a director is to make sure that they have a safe place in which they can go and become their characters, and as well to have the bigger picture to understand how we're capturing the scene so that it has meaning, so that we understand what the resonance and what the thread is that carries through the scene.
What would you like filmgoers to get out of this?
I think it would be really important for filmgoers to get to know Lee Miller, get to understand what made her tick, what drove her, what inspired her, and also what affected her emotionally. So for them to go on Lee Miller's journey with Lee, and at the end to be moved and to see the world in a different way.
Well, that was the director there of the film Lee. It's out in cinemas this weekend, and Josh Rom has brilliantly brought us an interview with Kate Winslet, who stars as Lee. Josh, thank you very much indeed. Wonderful to have you in the studio and bringing Kate Winslet with you, a gift. Lee is in cinemas, as I say, this weekend. You can also listen to Jane and Fee, who are going to be running a special feature on her all next week. They're going to be talking to her son, Anthony Penrose, who will talk about his mother's life, work and legacy, and how extraordinarily he didn't actually know about his mother's career before he discovered an attic full of negatives and then began to uncover really who she was and what she did. And Jane and Fee will be talking to all sorts of people about her